Well, it's a day that ends in Y, so there's another border crisis. This time, it's even worse than you can imagine, and it affects over 85,000 kids. It's pretty obvious that the U.S. southern border is a mess. Homeland Security and Border Patrol states that over 20,000 people are contacted each month just trying to cross the border. That's just the ones they get in contact with. So they're interviewed, they're given a court date, and then they're just released into the country, apparently. Do they ever appear for their court date? Who knows? The courts are backed up for years. I'd like to say that most of the people seeking asylum are poor single mothers with a hungry child on each hip, desperately seeking help. But that's just not the case. Many border crossers are military-aged men just seeking work. They're coming for the money. They're not refugees of any type. But in order to pass the border easily, they're bringing children. Are they bringing their own children? No, just any children. What happens after they get across the border? Well, the children are kind of abandoned. Well, they're no longer needed. But sometimes children arrive completely unaccompanied. I kind of find this hard to imagine, that a child can show up at the border alone seeking asylum. But apparently it happens a lot. According to data from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, approximately 345,000 minors have crossed into the United States unaccompanied since President Joe Biden took office. This is a huge problem. It's much worse than anything that has ever happened under any other president. But the absolute tragedy that falls on Biden's sleepy, hunched-over shoulders is that over 85,000 of these children are missing. They have completely lost contact with them. Did they go back home? Did they get adopted? Are they working in factories? Are they being trafficked by someone like Jeffrey Epstein? Are they dead? No one knows. 85,000 children are just missing. Let's put it this way. The worst tragedy on U.S. soil was the 9/11 attack. During that deadly attack, 2,977 people died. If the World Trade Centers were populated with just children, Joe Biden is responsible for the 9/11 attacks happening once per day for an entire month. Remember that tragedy? How it was devastating to the whole country? The country mourned for months. But that was just one day. Now imagine it happens every day for an entire month, and it only affects children. And no one's even talking about it. Now the left and the propaganda media will say, "Oh yeah, but Trump had kids in cages, and that was way worse." Hold on there, potato brain. Yes, children were detained, but that was an Obama policy. You need to detain kids. If they're abandoned or unaccompanied, you need to process them and find them a suitable place to live. You need to give them a place to sleep. You need to feed them. You need to give them medical attention, etc., etc. It's not pretty, but neither is walking through a desert and showing up to a place where you don't belong. You don't speak the language, and you don't have any means to support yourself. These kids put themselves in this position. So Trump had to do the best that he could at the time. But he didn't lose them. At least President Trump knew where they were. Biden doesn't care about the border. He certainly doesn't care about the kids. 85,000 kids are missing on his watch. 85,000 is a lot of kids. Okay, here's another way to look at it. The average size of a high school graduating class is 246 students. The next time you see a crowd of seniors throwing their hats in the air and celebrating graduation, just remember, you need to see that graduation ceremony 345 times. That's about once a day for an entire year to equal the number of kids that have just gone missing during Biden's stewardship of the border. So what happens next? Will Biden close the border? Or at least maybe build a wall to slow the mass migration? No. But he will end Title 42, and that will allow more migrants to come in over the summer. So how many kids are going to get lost for the rest of the year? 20,000? 30,000? How many is too many? And does he even care at all? Well, based on his actions, no, not really. Is this the worst humanitarian crisis on the planet right now? Okay, let's look at this from another perspective. Let's pretend that this exact same crisis is happening in Somalia or Pakistan. Ooh, how about Ukraine? Under any other circumstances, the U.S. military would send troops to help with the crisis. But the U.S. doesn't care about this crisis. In fact, you could make the argument that they caused this crisis. What is stopping any other global superpower from sending troops to control the situation? Come on, it's a humanitarian crisis. Again, if this happened anywhere else, there would be foreign troops, or even the UN Blue Helmets, rushing in to take over. Are we, as a country, getting so weak on the global stage that another country might send troops to intervene in this humanitarian crisis? Now, this is a real possibility, and if it happened in any other country, why can't it happen here? I mean, the current occupant of the White House won't be bold enough to address or fix the crisis. What would happen if 15 Chinese gunships landed on the southern border and started giving orders, setting up checkpoints, and taking over the southern border? What would Biden do? In reality, probably nothing. With all the money that China has paid him and his family, I wouldn't be surprised if he turned over sections of the border security to the Chinese forces. It's not impossible. But this might be where we're heading. Now, I know this is a fantastic and dark scenario, but just imagine any other country, and you'll see that this is not only probable, but very likely. So what do you think? You got any opinions on that? Let me know. I got another video coming later, so I'll see you soon.